Greetings, beloved Dr. Hannah Thuku with Further the Faith Ministry, reading through Isaiah chapter 2. God says in his word in Matthew chapter 4, verse 4, that man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. Psalm 119, verse 105 says, Your word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. And Revelation chapter 1, verse 1 says, Blessed is he who reads and those who hear the words of the prophecy and keep the things that are written in it, for the time is near. Go with me today to Isaiah chapter 2, and it starts, the word which Isaiah, the son of Amoz, beheld concerning Judah and Jerusalem. Now it will be that in the last days, the mountain of the house of Yahweh will be established as the head of the mountains and will be lifted up above the hills. And all the nations will stream to it. And many peoples will come and say, Come, let us go up to the mountain of Yahweh, to the house of the God of Jacob, that he may instruct us in his ways, and that we may walk in his paths. For from Zion the law will go forth, and the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem. And he will judge between the nations, and will render decisions for many peoples. And they will hammer their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation will not lift up sword against nation, and never again will they learn war. Verse 5, Come, house of Jacob, and let us walk in the light of Yahweh. For you have abandoned your people, the house of Jacob, because they are filled with influences from the east. And they are soothsayers like the Philistines, and they strike bargains with the children of foreigners. And the key word there, foreigners, refers traditionally in the word to people whose hearts are not inclined to God, people who do not love God, people who do not walk in the fear of God are hereby referred to as foreigners. Verse 7, the land has also been filled with silver and gold, and there is no end to their treasures. Their land has also been filled with horses, and there is no end to their chariots. Their land has also been filled with idols. They worship the work of their hands, that which their fingers have made. So the common man has been bowed down, and the man of importance has been made low. But do not forgive them. Enter the rock and hide in the dust from the dread of Yahweh and from the splendor of his majesty. The lofty look of man will be made low, and the man made high will be bowed down, and Yahweh alone will be exalted in that day. For Yahweh of hosts will have a day of reckoning against everyone who is proud and high, and against everyone who is lifted up, that he may be made low. And it will be against all the cedars of Lebanon that are high and lifted up, against all the oaks of Bashan, against all the high mountains, against all the hills that are lifted up, against every lofty tower, against every fortified wall, against all the ships of Tarshish, and against all the desirable craft. The loftiness of man will be bowed down, and the men who are high will be brought low, and Yahweh alone will be exalted in that day. But the idols will completely vanish. Men will go into the caves of the rocks and into holes of the ground before the dread of Yahweh and the splendor of his majesty when he arises to make the earth tremble. In that day, men will cast away to the moles and to the bats their idols of silver and their idols of gold, which they made for themselves to worship, in order to go into the caverns of the rocks and the clefts of the cliffs before the dread of Yahweh and the splendor of his majesty when he arises to make the earth tremble. Stop regarding man, whose breath of life is in his nostrils, for why should he be esteemed? And I'll repeat that call to action from Isaiah chapter 2. Stop regarding man, whose breath of life is in his nostrils. For why should he be esteemed? This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.